All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Call for a motion to enter into a public session.
I'll make a motion.
Motioned and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you for everyone who came out tonight. Appreciate you. We're going to begin with the recognition of the Falcons of the Month. Okay.
We're on. Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is our happiest board meeting night of the month, right? We usually do this once a month. Actually, this month we'll do it twice a month where we honor our Falcons of the month. So this is a fun time for us. I know the board appreciates it. Tonight we have the distinction of honoring our next group of Falcons of the month. Each school in our district celebrates numerous students each and every month simply for being outstanding. We have asked our schools to select one individual from the many honored to represent the group. Therefore, the students we will be honoring tonight were selected because they personified the trait or characteristic being celebrated this month. In other words, these students represent the best of the best for this month. I will be calling each student up tonight. When I do, you'll receive a certificate. I'll shake your hand and then I'm going to ask you to walk down and shake the hands of everybody at the table and then return back to your seat. Okay. We also then after that, we're going to ask everybody to stay. We have a special graduation diploma presentation tonight as well. And then you can see there'll be some really nice treats afterwards for everyone. And the board president will probably take a little pause.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll read the first certificate. They all sound the same, but I will read the first certificate of recognition. It says, whereas the philosophy of the education of Niagara Wheatfield Central School District calls for aiding all students in the development and achievement of their potential, and whereas the primary goals of the school district include encouraging each student to develop a sense of values, instill a feeling of responsibility to self and to others, as well as an appreciation of good citizenship. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Niagara Wheatfield Central School District hereby recognizes the following student. And our first student tonight is Veronica Rowley. Veronica. Next, we have William Rutland II. William will be able to see that on video at a later time because this will be video. Next, we have Nora Plunik. Nora. Next, we have Zachary Mokniak. Zachary. Next, we have Estella Francis Printup. Next, we have Violet Printup. Next, we have Dylan Phillips. Next, we have Julia Bordelon. Next, Evangeline Spagnolo. Next, we have Valentina Martinez. Next, we have Zana Lockett. Before we move on to our graduate this evening, let's give our Falcons of the Month one more big one. Okay, this time I would like to ask our principal of high school, Mrs. Butch, to please join me up here. I know she's right, oh, there she is. She kindly gave up her seat to the families. You have a copy here. So just before we do this, I wanna say this. As many of you know, students take all different kinds of time to graduate. Some students graduate early, some students graduate late. Our goal is to make sure they graduate and help them graduate. And so we're really, really proud and really excited when students, whether they graduate early, graduate late, come here to receive the diploma with us. It's a great success. And for people who it took a little bit longer, that perseverance is really, really important. And so we're really proud when that does happen. So I'll let you start.
Will our January 2025 graduate please stand up?
We'd ask you to come up here if you could. And right there, Boris.
Superintendent Milanich, as principal of the senior high school, I certify that the student presented here has fulfilled all of the requirements set forth under New York State education law and the Niagara-Wheatfield district policy. They are now prepared to receive the recognition for the work that they have successfully completed.
By the power vested in me by the Board of Regents of the state of New York and as superintendent of school, it is my honor to confer upon you, the student of Niagara-Wheatfield High School, the Niagara-Wheatfield High School diploma with all the rights and benefits pertaining unto them.
Ladies and gentlemen, our January class of 2025 graduate, Elijah Marone.
Congratulations to Elijah and our Falcons of the Month. We thank you, all family and friends, for coming out tonight. We have some refreshments in the back. Take about a 10 to 15-minute break if you'd like to help yourselves, and then we'll continue on with our budget presentation.
Also, if you're interested, there's a place right over here that makes a really nice backdrop for pictures. If you're interested in taking them, that's why we have it there. Okay.
Back to order here and continue with our budget presentations tonight.
We're gonna start with Greg from our facilities department, Mr. Phillips. I know. I saw that. That's why I called on you. For the record, I did give him a warning in the back and said, you know, I probably would call on first.
Hello, everybody. My name is Greg Phillips. For those of you I haven't really had a chance to meet yet, and I'm obviously the director of facilities here. And just going through a quick budget presentation here for some of my changes for 25-26. None of my staffing has changed, but for those of you that might not know, we have 1 full-time head custodian district-wide, 4 maintenance personnel, 5 district-wide laborers that handle the grass and stuff outside, 7 building laborers inside, 33 full-time cleaners, 1 full-time day cleaner, 4 part-time day cleaners, 2 night part-time cleaners, and 1 mail courier currently on staff. Under some of the proposed changes on our annual contractuals. So for UNS services for our building controls with an increase of $920, and Siemens underneath that for building controls at $4,150. Now for the Sonatrol security and fire monitoring at $4,500, some of that increase is due to the annual cost, but also the new addition for the auditorium for our monitoring and camera additions. And then on the annual boiler prevention of $10,500 in today's day and age, the technology needed and the manpower to service our boilers has just gotten crazy technical, and this is just to stay in line with our service and PMs every year for a total increase of $20,070. And this year, keeping it try to be simple with our equipment and vehicles. We're looking to get 1 last piece of equipment for snow removal at our buildings in a Kubota with the plow and salters you see down in the bottom right-hand corner. These have been very instrumental in helping around our buildings, just not only clearing snow, but salting and then freeing up extra time for those guys to do things during the day. It's so much better than pushing the snow blowers and like the walk behind salters. And as we keep on our normal replacement schedule of every 10 to 12 years for our equipment, we're looking for a new pickup truck with plow for $60,000 and a cargo van to replace for our mail courier for $45,000 for a total cost of $136,000. And I'm happy to report that that's the end of what we're looking for out of the facilities this year. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I wanna know where we're getting a truck for that price. With the plow, that's great.
It is a little bit. I'm still shocked at it because I thought it's every year it seems to go up.
Oh, I'm sure.
The first ones that I bought when I started were $42,000 in 2019.
But when less prices we got, they may go up.
Yeah, right. Yes.
I know, it's just crazy.
Yep.
But we've been in good shape with everything else, so thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie, sitting right next to him, you're next, unless you're eating the cookie.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Bukowski. I'm Director of Transportation. I'm going to do the transportation budget. The only increases that I have in there are the contractual, which is because we are in lack of drivers. Hopefully, if you have friends, relatives, neighbors that would like to become a bus driver, bring them down. Transportation staff, I have 43 drivers, including permanent unassigned, 6 attendants, 3 mechanics, 2 laborers, 1 head bus driver, 2 office clerical staff that doesn't drive, 1 school bus fleet coordinator, a director of transportation. Note of the 8 bus garage staff, 6 drive regularly. Our current maintenance schedule includes 63 buses and 1 shop truck and 2 Durangos, 13 building and ground vehicles, and several more that are coming. Our mechanics provide a minor maintenance with a 3-month and a 6-month routine checklist. Our school bus DOT profile, which is a Department of Transportation that comes in every month, twice a month sometimes, is 98.7 out of 100%. Update for the profile will come March 31st of 2024. We also passed our New York State DMV 19A audit with flying colors. We will continue to recruit, maintain safe quality drivers and attendant monitors. Thank you for the safety and support of our children. Please stay safe. Any questions?
No, just one comment. That rating up there is awesome. It's like that every year. Great job to you. I see Tony sitting in the back representing our mechanics. They do an incredible job of keeping our kids safe by taking care of those buses. They also are some of the people who get in their buses and drive
Yes.
quite frequently when we need them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give you a little wave there. Welcome, my name is Anthony O'B, Matt McKenna, Director of Athletics here at Niagara Wheatfield. I'm presenting on our 25-26 budget. And it's, what we're basing it on here is our, combines all our levels with our modified JV and varsity, our unified sports, and also our Hall of Fame, which the number of sports that we currently have in our program are 69 sports. For our equipment code under 201, which is, you can see there the difference from 24 to 25, 20,000 opposed to our 36,000 items in this code consist of purchases that are non-categorized as supplies, again, are larger items such as pitching machines and larger ticket items, goals, netting, stuff like that, things that are larger equipment. And again, for the increase this year, there's been a new mandate by New York State that all our varsity and JV programs for lacrosse need shot clocks. And unfortunately, those are pretty pricey at $6,000. So we are fortunate that we were a little bit ahead of the ball game when we did our capital project for our varsity programs that do participate on our turf facility. That was part of the project for our turf facility, but we can't always fit our JV with the amount of varsity programs, so we have to have our JVs on that field with all our varsity programs. So we did have to accommodate for 2 new shot clocks for our JV field, which is side field 1 on the grass. Contractual, you can see the numbers have not changed from last year or this current year going into next year. And again, the contractual code 410, these are our official costs of reconditioning for all our sports equipment. Any like indoor track costs, which means more or less, different events that we go to, that there's a fee for trainer salary, et cetera, et cetera. The one big piece down there is our championship competition costs. It really depends on the sport. And whether it's individual or team sport in regards to when our student athletes attend championship competitions. And it's costly, but I guess it's a good problem to have because we've been very successful in the last several years, I should say, is having our student athletes competing at the championship level in New York State. So the transportation costs, hotel stays, et cetera, are all part of that. Supplies based, this is custodial supplies, my apology. Nothing's changed there. Again, these are simple things like Clorox, disinfectant wipes, stuff, maintenance for our machines in the weight room, minimum amount of $500 just to keep everything up and going and clean in different facilities. And these are just our supplies, our basketballs, batting helmets, those types of things, smaller ticketed items that do add up year after year with the wear and tear. And again, as you can imagine, we need quite a bit of equipment for all 69 of our programs. So smaller ticketed items, but that number will not be increased, 48,000. Uniforms, as you can see, there's a slight increase. Believe it or not, it's an odd request, but I thank Allison for this. We begin a lot of requests from our student body as well as a lot of others for a new school mascot. I think the last school mascot that we purchased was in 1975. As you can imagine, it doesn't look that clean and it's all that
It's a
nice.
uniform, we're not purchasing a mascot.
Right, it's not a uniform. But,
It'll be a Falcon flag.
yeah, not a real Falcon. No, that would be kind of neat though.
But you know, can I just add one thing to this, Matt?
Sure.
Those of you, a lot of you remember, we did do some kind of costing out of uniforms and found that, you know, that number closer to about $12,000 would cover when many of the school districts that we looked at are turning over their uniforms. We were turning over our uniforms after 6 years, is that right? And where a lot of other schools were doing about 4 years, 4 or 5. So this gives us an opportunity to turn over our uniforms more in line with some of the others. And we certainly have heard some things here at board meetings about, you know, they just get old, they get beat, particularly the white uniforms that end up looking kind of shoddy. So this will turn over those uniforms quicker, so they'll be.
Yeah.
Matt has a.
Yeah, we have a
sheet
list
that
of the
includes-
rotation for each of those, you know, as we know, without, you know, there's quite a few teams that we had to be able to rotate those and what. You know, we were seeing, as I said, we were forced to 10 years ago, bring those modifieds back and, you know, 5 years and 5 years, you know, that starts to catch up and those gotta be rotated and then the new uniforms that we get year after year. The other piece of that puzzle is too, is a lot of these vendors, they'll take them off the shelf and they'll be obsolete basically after 4 years where you cannot get that same identical uniform anymore. So if one kid loses it, or there is a big tear in it, or there's a blood stain, you can't get out those things, they gotta be disposed of. And after 4 years, you're just not able to get that same uniform again. So it's another piece to the tricky puzzle. That's the uniform code. Hall of Fame, we're obviously always excited in the beginning of November to present our Hall of Fame. Where I go, whoever comes, we were real fortunate these last couple weeks to have some bigger events here. And when people walk down that main corridor in the glass quarter by the cafeteria, that's the first thing they look at when they get there, and they're awfully impressed with it. So we like to, I'll say it, we like to brag about it. Because it's a wonderful thing and it looks very sharp and it's very unique. Not many other schools have it, if any. So you can see the difference from, you know, last year, 2024 and 25, and or this year, excuse me, and then going into next year for the final budget. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dominic.
All right, so I'm talking for Dominic tonight. He's
My apologies, 5 weeks. I can't catch a deep breath. I don't know what's going on, but we'll get it figured out.
so I'm Deanna Rosinski. I'm Dominic's direct supervisor for food service. If you don't already know, food service is a self-funded, self-supporting program. It's a separate fund from the general fund. Self-supporting means that all of the revenues generated by the food service fund is what supports the expenditures. So it's not taxpayer dollars, it's directly from revenues that the cafeteria makes or through purchasing food at the cafeteria line or from government reimbursement. So the request for the budget is not that much of an increase. The biggest increase on this slide is for food itself. We all see inflation in food products, so that's where that's coming from. We do have the flexibility of increasing our at the line lunch price if needed to make up for that. Come on to the next slide. And then this is the biggest increase is in the new equipment line. Dominic, do you want to
Sure.
share a couple points about that?
We're proposing to have order new ovens for the high school kitchen. And that $150,000 increase in expenditure for the new equipment also would include a brand new serving line for Eric Road Elementary School.
And recent accomplishments, the whole district is CEP now. That means that every breakfast and lunch is free for every kid in the district. Recently had a state audit for child nutrition. If you want to, sure.
All right, we had two auditors come from the state and review our program on February 26th. And they do an observation, two women, and they come and observe breakfast and lunch at the high school and at the middle school, the two sites chosen this year. And they then have an exit interview, to which they asked me if I would like to invite the high school, middle school cook, my account clerk, to be part of, to know and to gain the knowledge of how the school lunch program works, which I was very grateful for. And the auditors shared with me that they've never seen a food service program ready for an audit where we provided them with 6 or 7 3-ring binders. Everything is so detailed. They shared with us that normally they just receive boxes as if you're full of papers, full of invoices that they have to separate and put together, and it looked like they're ready to be shredded. You know, I said, well, we don't work that way in the kitchen. They said the high school and the middle school kitchens, upon observation, as they're reviewing breakfast and lunch, said some of the cleanest kitchens that they have ever been into. And they also said that my staff have such a positive rapport amongst fellow staff and students. They see that interaction across the serving line at both meal times. Of the 25 districts that they reviewed, they said Niagara-Wheatfield scored top 3. So, and overall, I always ask, and I think Dan is knowledge of that, how do we score 1 to 10? How do we, you know, and she said Niagara-Wheatfield did a 9.9 out of 10. So participation has increased. So the philosophy in food service is the door is always open, whether a student doesn't get to school on time, or we're always there and always willing to offer them a meal, breakfast, lunch, to make sure that they have something in their stomach so they perform well in school. Questions?
Nice job.
Awesome job with the audit, and I'm so glad that I can now hear your voice,
Yeah,
because it's been a little while.
I
It's good.
apologize.
Good to hear it coming back. No,
Yeah,
it's good to hear
little
it
by
coming
little.
back.
Thank you. Do I have one more?
Oh,
You're at the first.
right over here.
Thank you to all of you for your continued support of the Niagara-Wheatfield Food Service Program. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Steve?
Hi, Steve Metzger, Director of Special Programs, and this is my budget for the school year, upcoming school year. As you can see, not much is changing in all the different areas. We've been able to maintain these budget lines over the last few years, so there's no need to make any adjustments for the next school year. The one thing I'm going to talk about, which is not changing this year, which has changed, has been the private placement tuition. So over the last couple of years, the 23-24 school year and the 24-25, we've had to increase this significantly because of just the student needs and the fact that with BOCES, you know, they were having a hard time recruiting staff and supports. And because of that, we had to look at private placements. BOCES, you know, does have new leadership and they're doing new things, which have been really positive and have a really good positive outlook for the next school year. So we're really optimistic there. But the last couple of years, 23-24 and 24-25, we've had a buffer at the end of the year with the money. So we did not see a need to increase that this year, which is a good thing. So we're maintaining that as well. One thing I am proposing is another full-time school psychologist to be housed out of district office. This person will serve as a CPSE, CSE chairperson district-wide. they could do a number of things. And the reason we want a psychologist is because the key thing there is they can help with the evaluations of our students. So they can assist with the evaluations district-wide and throughout BOCES and our out-of-district placements. They can support our clerical team to ensure IEP compliance. They can assist myself and my assistant director with professional development with teachers and staff. And it will also allow greater flexibility for myself and my assistant director to be in the classrooms, help develop programming, help audit programming throughout the district, and support our principals, teachers, and staff. And just to kind of give you a breakdown on that, currently encumbered in IDEA 611, which is the grant we do every year, we do have salary plus health insurance for one of our retired clerical at around $71,940. That's there. So when we're thinking about hiring a full-time school psychologist or chairperson, we estimate the salary to be around $64,320. If they're on single insurance, if they're on family insurance, actually that should be reversed, I think. Is that right? Is that right? Never mind. Okay, never mind. Single insurance around 64, so the difference would be like a 13,951 increase for the district. Family insurance would be around 85, and the difference there would be actually a decrease. So we did look at other options before considering another psychologist. We looked at a psychologist intern. It's limited what they can do. They could do evaluations, but they have to be essentially supervised by one of our own psychologists. So there's additional work there. And the minimal price for the stipend for a intern is around $20,000. So, when it comes down to it, we'd actually be saving more if we hired an additional psychologist.
And if I could just really quick, so we actually have a teacher right now, why the increase is so minimal or decrease. I'll help with those numbers in a minute. We currently have a special education teacher who's been helping out in the office. However, our psychologist, just moving a psychologist there, that person will have a skill set that'll allow them to do some things that the current person isn't able to do. If you look up there, I think what should be different is that what should be switched.
Yes.
That's where it says difference of 13,951, that should just be down by the 85,891. Those two things in parentheses should be swapped.
Yes.
And then if you do the math, you see where it makes sense. In other words, the 71,940 that we're spending right now, if we hire a psychologist at 64,320, it's actually a negative difference. So, we're saving $7,620 versus if we have somebody who has a family plan, it would be 85,891, which would be an increase of 13,951. Makes sense?
Yeah, that's where I was getting thrown off, the one in the parentheses. Thanks, Dan. Any questions? No. All right, thank you.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jen Golias. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction and Technology. And here with me tonight, I have Jessica Smith, who's the Assistant Director of Technology, and Kelly Stopa, who's the TOSA in our department. So tonight we're going to present our budget proposal. But before we do that, before we start getting into numbers, we wanted to just talk a little bit about our goals. We have a lot of goals, but these goals we pulled out that we use to support the CDEP plan in the district, but they're related directly to the increases that we're going to be talking to and the budget lines that we're going to be going through. So we, as our department, are for empowering the success of students and teachers, and we mean that by making sure that teachers are equipped with the professional development, the resources that they need to do their very best when they need it. And also that students have diverse learning opportunities to succeed, whether they're struggling or whether they're very successful, so that they have what they need. And then the second goal that we're looking at or focusing on today comes out of our technology plan, which is equitable access. And we've been working on that. And when Jessica talks about the reserves, you'll see that we've been using a lot of the technology reserves to work on that goal, so that teachers have the same technology across different classrooms, and that teachers have the ability to integrate technology in meaningful ways, And then the final goal really supports our CDEP goal number 1, which is to promote best practices and systems of cybersecurity, because CDEP goal number 1 is all about safety. And I know I talked before in the fall that safety we have to think about in terms of cybersecurity as well. So I'm going to talk about the curriculum instruction, which is those first goals that I talked about. And in 2024, 2025, we had $393,491 in our budget. And so things that we spent on this year were professional development for teachers, for when they had professional development after school or during the summer, for PD providers who came in on superintendent conference days or days to work with the teachers during school. And the majority of that money goes for the curriculum materials, whether they're paper-based or whether they're digital. This year, we went through and we did an ELA for the middle school, and we put a new program in the middle school in 7th and 8th grade for ELA, and then 7th and 8th grade social studies as well. So next year, if you look at that amount that we're requesting, it's about $2,658 decrease over that. We're going to be doing a lot of the same things that are listed in the column for 24-25, but what we did was we moved around some money in there, but because we increased the PD provider line so that we could have more professional development opportunities for teachers, and we decreased the travel and the mileage, so bringing people in instead of sending people out. So that's curriculum instruction, and I'll turn it over to Jess to talk about technology.
So for the general fund for the technology budget, these are equipment code, repair supplies, and contractual codes. We spent in 2024-25, we have the amount of $142,237. And some of the things that we purchased this year with those funds have been some replacement laptops for staff, ViewSonic displays, live streaming equipment, and then miscellaneous computer repair supplies, annual non-instructional software renewals, and also upgrading the high school cafeteria wireless microphones. With the auditorium being out of commission, the high school cafeteria has become an essential place for large groups. In the next school year, 25-26, we are not requesting any increases, and we'll continue to use those funds for some of like the standard repair supply things that we need every year. But in addition to that, next year, we are planning to look at replacing sound and audio equipment in common shared spaces like gyms and cafeterias, and also projector and device replacements as needed. From the technology reserves, this current 24-25 school year, we were allocated the amount of $200,000, and we purchased desktops, UPS, which protect and power our network equipment in our network closets. We purchased some displays and projectors with those funds, and we will be purchasing a new network core, a wireless controller, and wireless access points very shortly. And then this summer we will be installing those all of that equipment. And then for the next year, 25-26, we're requesting the same amount, and we will be purchasing new servers, server storage, additional UPS for network closets, some networking switches, and some additional projector device replacements. So by the end of the summer, we are going to have a pretty significant changeover in our networking equipment. So we will really be benefiting, our network infrastructure will really be benefiting from these technology reserves from this school year and next school year. So we'll be really in very good shape.
All right, so we have some new requests as a department, and some of those are BOCES requests, so you'll see those through Allison's BOCES budget, but we really wanted to talk about it and give some context to them. So one of the things that we're requesting through the BOCES budget is a product called Think Tech, which would be K through 12. And it's really an assessment piece and a teaching piece, and it has a multiple different uses that it can use for instruction. So one of the things that we're going to do is do an increase, but we're also going to offset part of the cost by eliminating some of the products that are a little bit older, outdated, or underused by teachers, and that would be Castle Learning and eDoctrina. The other thing that we're requesting is an additional 0.2 BOCES tech. Currently, we have a full-time tech who's here 5 days a week, and then we have 2 BOCES techs on Monday, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Thursday, 2 on Friday, and then on Wednesday, we just have 2 people in the district with 6 schools. So we're requesting the 0.2 so that we continuously have 3 people, 3 technicians in the district available to support the 6 buildings. And then the other thing that we requested through the BOCES budget was 17 instructional resource team days. And what those are to have a BOCES specialist come in to work with teachers in certain areas. So right now, we're in the process of changing over the science standards. And sometimes with math just changed recently, they make little tweaks to the standards. The science standards are a complete overhaul and completely changing the way that science is taught in schools. So a majority of those days would be someone to come in from BOCES to work with our teachers at the secondary level, the elementary level in the area of science. And then the rest of those days would be divided up based on different content areas. And then the last thing that we're requesting is an increase of a full-time equivalent for someone to be a full-time tech integrator across the district, and that would be roughly at the cost of $85,000. And I'm going to turn that over to Kelly to talk about.
All right, so in kind of talking about this need for a tech integrator, I just want to give you guys a little bit of historical information when it comes to tech integration at Niagara Wheatfield. In 2022, we developed our district technology plan, and in developing that plan, we decided that we were really trying to have a goal and some focus on providing that equitable access for children in the classroom, but not just giving them access to the technology, really trying to amplify how they're using it. And so from that technology plan in 2023, we did have a full-time 1-year tech TOSA just at the 4 elementary buildings to really kickstart that. If you look on the other side there, there's some data from that, including what that support really looked like. So some of it was broken down into just planning collaboration with teachers. But if you look, a large portion of it was co-teaching, which means that that tech integration was pushing in with the teacher and actively working with the teacher and with the students. The teacher was observing the tech integrator and seeing what that integration looked like so that they had that confidence to then move on and use the integration themselves without needing the integrator in the room as well. You'll also see that there was like planning, co-teaching, support. So it was where there was more of a collaboration amongst weeks. And then there was also your typical professional development, support in IT, and then creation slot. A lot of the time teachers really have an idea. They don't have the time to do that creation process. And that's where the integrator was stepping in. Again, the level of integration is shown on the bottom, where our goal is to really look at not just providing a replacement for what kids are doing in the classroom. So not just handing them a device, which we know is oftentimes I'm using technology means that the kid has a device in their hand. But are they really amplifying or transforming their education with that device? Meaning that there is more than just the student staring at a screen. The student is actively engaged in a process and collaborating with students and the teacher to make that process really ignite their learning. And so this year we had building-based tech integrators. So each building had a tech integrator available to them, but they were still teachers. And while that was really great, those teachers that were acting as that building-based integrator did a fantastic job with providing support, allowing teachers to come down and ask them questions and, maybe give them some advice here and there. it just didn't allow for that co-teaching model. And a lot of the time that would require somebody to come in and be a sub and be in for the tech integrator while the tech integrator is in the classroom. And we just know that there's a large volume of need for that. And that would be a disadvantage for the tech integrator who's in the classroom as well. Go to the next one.
Yeah, I just want to add on before we go to the next slide, that in 2023, that was paid for, the full-time integrator was paid for out of the COVID funds, which we no longer had. So in 2024, we tried to, be a little bit creative about what we were doing. And then we found that it might not have been as effective as what we were doing when we had the full-time integrator.
So for that, moving on and looking in the future, we really want that teacher support. And that's what teachers were really craving. They really need that time to understand what the technology looks like in their classroom, have that collaboration piece, allow the technology to be seen in action, as well as providing that professional development and giving them opportunities to learn when they're outside the classroom so they can integrate it in the classroom on their own. Additionally, that provides for a lot more experiences of STEAM and higher level thinking in the classroom, amplifying and transforming the learning process rather than just providing them the access. And then again, content creation and lesson planning for the teachers as well.
Do you have any questions? Right, and before we sit down, I'd like to just say thank you for the technology reserves and for the funding and your support that you've given our department.
Thank you.
I didn't miss anybody. Tony, anything?
All right, thank you everyone for your presentations tonight. There's extra cookies for staying so long. So moving on now to residents' comments. So anyone from the floor? Okay. Moving on then to our consensus agenda items. I don't believe there's anything to separate. So I'll call for a motion to accept consensus agenda items 1 through 8 as presented. Second. It's been motion and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. On to personnel items. I'll call for a motion to accept the personnel items numbers 1 through 10 as presented. It's been motion and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. From our standing committees, we had an audit committee meeting prior to the meeting. We had our internal control risk assessment given to us from EFPR Group. Everything looked pretty good. They just had a couple of comments that looking to address. And I don't know if Allison had anything you want to add to that. Okay. Alrighty. Moving on to no written communications, ex officio student report. Jonah.
So just starting off, I want to congratulate the students of the month. They work hard day after day, so they deserve every bit of recognition that they receive. Spring sports are obviously almost here. I believe they start in about a week or two. So it's very exciting. There's a lot of excitement around the school. One thing that's been sort of in talks among students is regarding the lunch line. Obviously, you enter your PIN to confirm that you get lunch or snack or anything. There have been a lot of students that have been wanting, and this is simply just a concept, but have been wanting to implement some sort of like credit or debit card swipe, along with how we currently can use cash to buy snack or buy an extra lunch or anything, and we can have money on our account. Some students have been wanting to use their debit cards or credit cards, an idea, because not everybody, has access to their own account that they can put money in for lunches or snacks and whatnot. And that, again, that's simply just a concept that's been in talks. I've heard a lot about it lately. And my final point, I just want to congratulate, Eli Marone again. He did a great job throughout his high school career, so. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, John. I have nothing for president's report, to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank the Niagara community, but also the surrounding communities for coming out to the cabin fever event that was run by our local Rotary Club. For those that don't know, the Rotary Club raises funds for scholarships for our students, dictionary projects that they do every year for our students, and they also assist our Interact Club. As a matter of fact, at the end of March, there'll be a lasagna love event taking place at the high school, in which lasagnas are made for families who show that, you know, that they may have a need for that, and we have them made. The Rotary Club uses funds from events like Cabin Fever to pay for that. So that was pretty neat. I just want to thank people who were able to come out. This Friday, March 7th, is our staff development day. I just want to take a minute in advance, and I always do it in advance because of the work that they put in before the event, and that is to all of our local law enforcement and EMS. They spend a lot of time planning with us, planning for us, for days like this Friday, particularly when we're doing things like active shooter drills. And they put a heck of a lot of time into it. We appreciate all the work, all the time that they invest with us for our district and for our kids and for our staff. So thank you. March 19th, which is our next meeting date, we are going to have another group of Falcons of the Month. We're also going to have a group of students presenting here from Colonial Village their invention convention projects. So they'll be around the room, and you'll be able to see some of those really incredible projects that the kids work really hard on. April 26th this year is our Eco Campus project and our Wellness Walk and Wellness Fair. So mark your calendars. The Eco Campus project starts at 8, ends at 11. Wellness Walk start right afterward. 11 o'clock to 1 p.m. The Wellness Walk and Wellness Fair. So again, that's April 26th. April 2nd, I'm going out of order here, is the presentation from Dr. Rick Timms. He'll be coming in. He works with our district as a consultant and helps us put together our long-range financial plan. And I would tell you that in New York State, there's not a person that I know that knows more about how school finance works than he does. So we're lucky to have him. I won't give him that compliment when he's here, just for the record. Bless you. This is important for the board to know. The current system that we use for board docs will be migrating to a new system, and that system is called Diligence. We'll give you some information on the timeline of that. My understanding is that board docs will be in place for the remainder of this school year, and then we'll see as that has to take place and what the change is. What I was told, Renee was looking into this a little bit. Diligence is actually, I think, maybe the parent company to board docs right now anyway. So I don't know how much of a change, but there'll be some change. Okay. And then this coming weekend, the musical Mamma Mia will be taking place at SUNY Niagara. It is Friday night at 7 p.m., Saturday at 2, and then Saturday again at 7 p.m. And just some of the things I'm hearing ahead of time. My understanding is students have had their lines memorized for a couple weeks already, so they're ready to go and can't wait. I'll be there Friday night. I can't wait. I don't know if people are saying this out loud, but it feels this way that this year's musical, they did a little addition by subtraction because they don't have me on the stage, so it's automatically going to be better. Take that hit if that's true. But I got the hook apparently. Nobody asked me back. Feelings are hurt just a little bit. I would have said no, but for the sake of the program, but we're really excited. That I know the kids are excited to put on a great performance. And I do want to say this. SUNY Niagara has been fantastic to work with for us for all of the different programs that we've had to move there. Our auditorium is still on schedule, and so, next year at this time, I would expect that our students will be able to be putting on performances in our new auditorium, as long as that timeline, stays the way it is right now, and we expect it to. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you for your report. Moving on to reports to the Board of Finance. The budget presentation.
Okay, for those who are maybe watching this live stream or who will watch it another time on video, tonight's budget presentation is a bit shorter than the last couple. If you're interested in some of the legislative priorities that we've been pushing, you can go back to the last couple of meetings and you can watch those and you can see a little bit more lengthy budget presentation. Okay, this is actually our third budget presentation. We call them all initial. These are initial budget presentations until we get to the final budget presentation, which is a required budget presentation. Okay. We left this on here of the legislative priorities because this is one of the most pressing. It's one of the most potentially costly priorities that we're seeing. I want to let everybody know that we've received some feedback, or we're not completed, our survey is not completed, but we've received some feedback already. And just to give you one example of one of the things that we're hearing from the survey, was it 14?
14.
It was 14. So 14, think about this, 14 of our current runs, or bus runs, wouldn't be able to operate with an electric bus. In other words, a run consists of a couple of runs in the morning, a couple in the afternoon. The bus battery wouldn't make it the way our current runs are constructed. So you really would have two options, right? You either need additional buses or you need to change the runs. If you change the runs, you're making probably more runs, and you're gonna need more buses and more drivers. So, those are really the options. Again, this is just some of the preliminary stuff coming out about our current bus situation, our bus study, excuse me. Allison.
So just to review again, Governor Hochul presented her state budget proposing of 37,365.42 million, or 37,365,420,000 in state support for public schools. It's made up of formula-based aids and categorical aids and grant programs. And then she also put a 4.75, that is a 4.75% increase over the state budget for school aid. And her proposal continues to continues all the expense-driven aid formulas. In other words, they were talking about changing them for a few years now, but she's going to continue them as is.
And just as a reminder, this is only the executive budget. It's the governor's budget. The legislature now will come out with their budgets, and hopefully by April 1st or sooner, we'll know what the actual budget in New York State will be for schools and for the rest of the state as well.
So this is just showing Niagara Wheatfield's budget again, compared to last year, and the foundation aid has increased just over 2.2 million, or about 8.98%. The expense-based aids have increased for the most part, except for some of the public high-cost aids and private excess cost aids, and those are both related to special programs and student needs. Instructional materials aids have decreased, and those are probably due to most likely a slight reduction in enrollment in the district. We don't have any of those other operating aids shown below, so our total aid increase over prior year is just over 2.9 million, or 7.61%.
And just as a reminder, you can see that a big chunk of that is, and you can see the foundation aid up at the top. The foundation aid amount has gone up, and it's gone up because they're now using the 2020 census data, which has been really important. They're using that data and in their formula, which includes, poverty numbers, special education numbers, and so all of that's been reset to is used as opposed to them using the 2000 census. So it's 20 years forward.
So this is just looking again at the tax cap levy worksheet. I won't go through the whole thing, but you can see in bold highlight there, the tax levy limit before exclusions is $36,860,034. And then we did have an exclusion this year for capital expenditures net of aid. There were no pension expenditure exclusions or torts and judgments. So we had exclusions in the amount of $646,667, which puts our tax levy limit plus exclusions at $37,506,701, or 0.64% over prior year. And that difference being $240,147 if you go to the limit.
That 0.64 number is the limit. Okay. You can see the ERS rate is expected to go to, they've actually said it. So it's going to go from 15.2 to 16.5%. That's for the employee retirement system. The teacher retirement system is going down from 10.02 to 9.59%. Here you can see the tax levy, tax levy review. You can see each year since 1718 where the numbers have been. You can see 0.68, 2.49, 1.71, 1.49. You can follow those numbers yourself. I won't read them all to you. Over the last 8 years, the average increase of the levy has been 1.94%.
Okay, and then this is just looking at where we are right now with our budget for 25-26 and the revenues coming in. So if you go to the maximum, the real property taxes coming in would be $37,506,700. And then we have pilots, payment in lieu of taxes and interest and penalty on those pilots. We do receive money for continuing education, tuition from other districts, health services from other districts, Native American tuition, interest and earnings, and then rental of real property, which the added one there is the BOCES line. We are now renting classrooms at Eric Road to BOCES, so we'll be getting some revenue for those classroom rentals. Below that, you'll see some miscellaneous BOCES refund and refunds, prior expenses, gifts and donations, some nominal things there, transportation charges. And then to the right at the top, you'll see all the state aid and what's budgeted. You will notice those numbers don't always match the exact amount in the aid, and that's because we are obligated to apportion some of that aid to the Tuscarora School because of the kids that go there. So some of that aid flows to that school. BOCES, textbook, software, hardware aid, library aid, transportation aid, those are, all reimbursable aids for expenditures. And then below that, we get impact aid and Medicaid, and those are both federal revenues that we receive. And total revenues to that point is just over 84 million, $84,787,655. And then we will have some interfund transfers. So that interfund transfer is the Greenway money that was apportioned specifically to the debt associated with the Greenway project back in 2011, I believe it was. So we're apportioning that money to pay off. That was money we received from the Power Authority to pay for that debt. Be applying appropriated fund balance in the amount of just over 1.9 million. And then the use of the reserves below. The capital transportation reserve would be money apportioned to pay for new buses and the facilities vehicles that were spoke about earlier. The capital technology reserve, which was also spoken about, that's 200. So those are offsetting expenditures in the budget. And then the other reserves being used would be to basically balance the budget. The ERS retirement reserve and the TRS retirement reserve at $750,000 each, and then the workers' compensation reserve at $500,000. And our EBLAR, or employee benefits reserve, at $450,000. So the total budget and revenues to offset that budget amount is $91,099,697.
This slide, what I want you to see is I want you to look in the far right-hand column for all of these, right? So to give you an idea of our revenues, our real property tax is about 41%, okay, of our revenues. If you look way over to the right, you see that our foundation aid is 29%, okay, of our revenues. Those are two big numbers. What I want people to understand is we got a big jump, of course, this year in our foundation aid, but it's less than a third of our revenues, okay? You know, if it was 90% of our revenues, that number would be so much more significant to our budget. So I think that's really important for people to note. The other is the $800,000 for the interfund transfers. Allison talked a little about that. And then you see the capital transportation, the capital technology. When you put those dollars together, we're looking at, and we're gonna get a little bit more into the expenditure budget at our next meeting. We'll go into some more detail, but when you put those numbers together, where are we at? 3.59%.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so the budget to budget increase is about 3.59%. When you exclude those numbers that we're bringing in to offset, in other words, there's $800,000 coming in to pay off.
It's inflating the budget.
So it inflates the budget a bit, right? The capital transportation reserve, the capital technology reserve, you see that that's 1.1. So you're talking almost it's a little over $2 million, right? 1.1, a little less than $2 million of the budget is money that's being offset by reserves or the interfund transfer. Okay.
So these are some of the numbers I put together for you to look at. Every year I look at either going above or below the levy limit. So the highlighted line is the levy limit, the tax levy limit, where we're at 0.64%, or a levy amount of $37,506,700, which would be an increase of $240,147. And then if you go to the far right, you'll see the 9-year average ends up being about 1.8% of an increase. So, you know, you can see going down 0.5, if you went to 0.5% or 0.25%, what the increase over prior year was, which would be in addition to the revenue, basically. And the difference from the levy limit, and then what the 9-year average would be, or if you went above at 1.0 or 1.5 or 1.75 going up, you could see, again, going through what the increase would be, what the difference is from the levy limit and what the 9-year average would be.
This is not a decision that you have to make tonight. Certainly, you can look at this. We can talk at the next meeting a little bit more. You know, a couple things to keep in mind. Well, one of them is, and I know many of you know this because you've been on the board a little while, but you know, whatever you don't levy, you lose, and you don't lose it for that year, you lose it for all years, right? You know, regardless of whether that's below or above levy limit. The other thing that's I think important to point out is that what I expect is that our levy limit will continue to be very low. And one of the impacts on the levy, as you know, when you look back at the formula, are the pilots. So we have one particular pilot that's going to grow and grow over the next decade, and that is the Amazon pilot. So right now it's at a very small number of, you know, a couple $100,000, I think is what's expected for next year, but that's going to grow into the millions. So eventually that will certainly be offsetting, you know, what we see as far as our levy limit, because those dollars are going to increase significantly once the place gets up and running. If you haven't driven past it, you know, it's pretty impressive, you know, building. It's incredible in size. So you can imagine the amount of work and funds coming out of that place once they get started. So we'll be excited to get those revenues once they start coming in. Oh, and this one, it's my favorite one to talk about because of the business office and because of the board. When you look in 2013, 2014, we were the most fiscally stressed district in New York State at 88.3%. Nobody was better, higher, worse off, right? You can see what's happened over the years and where we've held right down there near the bottom. Again, the Allison, the business office, the board, some really great work to keep that fiscal stress level really low. And I want to say this because I thought about it when our technology and curriculum instruction people were talking. If you go back about 9 or 10 years, the idea of needing a tech facilitator would have been almost laughable in our district. Seriously, right? We didn't have the technology for somebody to be implementing technology. We didn't have the Wi-Fi access in our buildings. So, and I say that whenever I look at this, because we've been able to keep the fiscal stress level down. We've been able to keep a levy at averaging under 2%, at the same time adding all of the technology to our district that actually now requires us to have a tech facilitator who can push into classrooms and work with teachers. We've talked about it a lot. I can't imagine had the board and the business office not put us in a position where we could do some of the things that we did just prior to COVID. Dan and I have talked about it before. If we had been two years behind on our curve, I don't know what our teachers would have done trying to run some of the virtual class stuff that they had to do. We wouldn't have had the Wi-Fi to do it. So, whenever I look at that graph, knowing all of the other things that we did at the same time, it's pretty incredible. So good job to the business office and the board. Questions? Yeah.
The last year's increase, did you show that? Versus
So you're talking about the levy?
levy, yeah.
The levy increase last year was 2.99%, looks like.
Looking at what this year.
Well, the levy limit would be 0.64%. That's the levy limit. Okay.
And I can add to that. I mean, the biggest reason for the drop this year is because we are utilizing that Greenway money to offset debt. So I have to count that in the computation for the tax cap. So they really counted against us, to be honest.
Is it okay if I get publicly mad about that? Well, I mean, I just, the reason I say that is because, we have a 50-year contract that enables us to get funds that we're not able to collect in any other way, right? That's why we get those funds. That's why there's only a few districts who receive those Greenway funds. And the fact that we get those funds, but then those funds are counted against us when they wouldn't count against if it was part of your levy, if there were homes there and people were paying taxes, that would just be additional revenue. So it's kind of unfair that it counts against us, but it does. Good. Very much.
Now moving on to any items for board discussion. Old business. New business. Any public comments? No? Any board member comments tonight?
Right.
Want to thank you again to everyone for their presentations tonight and for sticking out with us. Once again, plenty of cookies in the back as your reward. But no, we appreciate you very much and all the work that went into the presentations tonight. And with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion. Second. A motion second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you very much.